Lily. Give it up for Lily.
Guys, that intro was crazy. Okay. So like Kara said, my name's Lily. I go to Watterson. I'm a junior. So yeah, woo! And so I've been a Catholic my whole life. My mom always thought it was really important for us to go to Mass every Sunday, and my whole family is Catholic. So I've grown up in the church, and that's just something that I have a lot of experience with. But with being a Catholic my whole life, I feel like it's easy to get bored or easy to not really understand what our faith is about. So there was a couple things I wanted to talk about, and it's not something I share very openly with people. So I'm going to be really vulnerable with you guys, and I'm going to trust you with a part of my life that I don't tell a lot of people about. So a couple years ago, I feel like nobody would be able to outwardly see it, but I was really trapped in sin. And I could feel the devil really pursuing my heart. And the thing is, I didn't do anything about it. I was you guys know the saying, we weren't made for comfort, we were made for greatness. I chose comfort over greatness, and I chose the comfort in my own sin all the time. And so sin has an addictive quality to it, because Satan in his evilness wants us to feel like we belong and wants us to feel like our sin defines us, but it doesn't. And so my testimony is just one of being trapped and drowning, and then finding the Lord. And he taught me how to swim, and he taught me how to not be trapped under the waves. So what that looked like was going to confession a lot, a lot, every week a lot. If you have lunch with me, you know that I will not be there the first part of lunch on Wednesdays because I'm at confession. I always go behind the priest, and Father Noble's the priest at Watterson, but he could always tell my voice. I can guarantee that because I'm in confession every week. And so as silly as that sounds, it's actually really transformed my life. And I'm really grateful for the gift of Christ's salvation through confession. I remember when sin and addictiveness to sin was at its worst. I remember thinking wow, that is so embarrassing that I let sin rule me, when the one who gave his life for us and who was nailed to a cross for us wanted to save me. But I let the evil one rule my life. So after I kind of had secondhand embarrassment, thinking about that, wow, that's so shameful. I remember the first time I went to confession at Watterson after thinking that, and I felt so free, and I felt so new. And that wasn't something I had ever experienced before, because Satan was trying to take my heart. And so I was just in this time of spiritual warfare, and through the storm, the only thing that could get me through it was Christ. Christ guided me through the storm, and in my experience of going to confession, I found newness and I found new life. And so when I was trapped in sin for so long, and I went through years of choosing comfort over greatness, I didn't know that. I was oblivious to the fact that I was living my life for the evil one instead of the Father. And so the only way to sum it up is that I didn't know the weight until I felt the freedom. You know what I mean? I didn't know the cross that I was bearing until I took Christ's load and I bared it, and it was so light. And so I when it comes to sin and being ashamed of yourself and not being able to present yourself to Christ, I feel I have done it all. And I feel in my sin, I've actually grown. So as much as I regret letting my life represent someone who had fallen to the evil one, I'm grateful for that time too, because I would have never met Christ if it weren't for me realizing that how I was living isn't how I should be living. How Christ taught me how to swim is because I was suffering and I was drowning and there was no way out, but there actually was, but I was just too cocky and too proud to see it. I just feel sin is something that's talked about, and it's obviously ugly and it's obviously bad, but when you're trapped in sin and when the evil one's pursuing your heart and you're experiencing that spiritual warfare, you don't know that. And so what I want to end this with is that if you're ever having a hard time in your sin and you feel there's no way out, there actually is. And confession has changed my life. So my invitation to all of you is to hit up confession. Just one time, give it a try. Go and humble yourself before the Lord and forgive me, Father. Say, forgive me, Father, because like I said, Waterston has confession on Wednesdays. I remember I went to confession one Wednesday, and I came home, and I did exactly what I told God I was sorry for. And so then they had confession again Friday, and so I went into Father Noble's office, and I was like, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Wednesday was my last confession. And that seems like kind of sad, but through doing things like that and being humble to God and laying yourself down in front of him, I've learned to be such a better Catholic. I've learned to see God's love in a different way and his redeeming qualities, and I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for the salvation of Christ on the cross through confession.